wasn't it just like a week and a half ago, we thought the Chicago Cubs were going to boat race the Milwaukee Brewers in the NL Central?
You are Locked On Brewers, your daily Milwaukee Brewers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Wasn't me. Hey, everybody. Chuck Freimund, longtime sportscaster here in the state of Wisconsin and proud host of Locked On Brewers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. We are your team every day. Locked On Podcast Network, the number one sports podcasting network in the world, 10 years and going strong. Locked On Brewers, the number one Brewers podcast on the internet. We'll set the rotation for the Mets series coming up, which begins on Tuesday. Some prize news from Brandon Woodruff coming out on Saturday. We'll get to that. The Brewers were in the Little League Classic. Got some thoughts on that on Sunday night. But the Brewers maintain now a 6-game lead on the Chicago Cubs. Yeah, it was a week and a half ago. The Brewers were swept in San Diego, and there were some people who thought going in Los Angeles, and when the Brewers came out of Los Angeles last Sunday, that the Cubs would have surpassed the Brewers and have been in the division. Now, the lead did get down to 3, but the lead is back to 6 now. It was 7 after what happened on Saturday, but down to 6 after the Brewers did lose to the Braves on Sunday in Williamsport, and the Cubs had their way with Seattle. But 6-game lead. By no stretch is it over with. But there's 31 games. As I tell you, every week at about this time, we rip another week off the calendar, and the closer we get to the end of September and the Brewers have this lead, the better their chances are at winning this division. Now, obviously, we want to do more. We want to win the division, get one of the top 2 seeds in the National League, so they can avoid that dreaded wild card. But I thought taking 2 of 3 this weekend, man, I thought it was fantastic. The Brewers, I know they only scored 8 runs in 3 games, but still, you look at Friday's matchup, and then Saturday, Bowers with that great at-bat and the terrific bullpen as well. Sunday, yeah, not so much. They committed some errors. Drone pitched 2 runs, 5 innings, could have benefited from better defense behind him. And the Brewers were not very good. 2 of 11 with runners in scoring position. They had 2 runs on 11 hits. Well, as we know, that's not going to do it. But, the Brewers pitching pretty much has, and I don't get, this could be, the Braves are going through a hitting slump right now. They're struggling against everybody. And maybe the Brewers had something to do with that. But, boy, in the bottom of the 9th inning, when Contreras was at the plate, and when he hit it, and when he stood there momentarily, and at least that's what I saw, I had visions of a Rosarina. If you didn't see the home run on Saturday night, a Rosarina for Seattle hit a walk-off home run against the Cubs when it looked like they were dead in the water. He had a 2-run blast to win the game with 2 outs in the bottom of the 9th inning. There was bedlam in Seattle. I told you last week when Seattle was here, a Rosarina could play on my team any day. I just see, every time I see that guy, he is just Mr. Clutch, man. I love a Rosarina. And that was so cool. And then Contreras gets up and he hits that ball to center field, right center field. And I don't know, it had some height on it. I thought when he first hit it, I immediately flashed back to a Rosarina's hit. And I was sitting in the same spot in my living room thinking, man, am I going to see this again? And it was caught at the warning track. Some thick air out there from what I see on from those who were reporting the game. Might have got caught up there, but nonetheless, I thought Contreras was going to give the Brewers another magic moment right there and walk it off against the Braves, which would have been just phenomenal on ESPN. But it's caught at the wall. Bowers bounces into a double play, and the game ends. But hey, like I always say, take 2 of 3, and that's the way I look at it. I don't look, sure, the series ended on a down note, but I look at it and say, hey, they won the first 2 games of that series. Yeah, they scored 8 runs in 3 games. And there you go. The Brewers ended up taking 2 or 3, and another week off the calendar. They're 81-50. 31 games left and a 6-game lead on the Cubs. But that was so cool. Saturday night arose because I I take great pride in seeing the Cubs lose that way, especially these days, as I do in the Brewers winning on a walk-off. But Seattle, I'm watching that game. I did not watch that game on Saturday night at all until I was watching it on my phone, on the game cast. And then finally, bottom of the ninth, I'm going to put the game on. So I put the game on, and it gets down to first 2 outs of the game. I'm thinking, I'm not going to watch that. I'm just ready to go downstairs. So and a double and another base hit. And then a Rosarena's blast. It was like great 7-game lead on the Cubs. Always love looking at the app and check out the standings. As me, as I always say, I follow the standings from day one of the season. That's just me. But that was so cool. So 6 games right now. Comfortable? No, not comfortable, but you feel better than you did maybe a week and a half ago with a 3-game lead. But still, 31 games left, a lot of work to do. Several games left with the Cubs this year as well. I believe 7 games left with the Cubs. The Little League Classic. Now, first of all, my thoughts on the Little League Classic. These neutral site games, to me, I don't care. I don't care if a game is played unless I'm at the game, it would be pretty cool, I guess, being at a Little League park and seeing a Major League game, or being in Iowa at the Field of Dreams. But as someone's watching the game on TV, I just want to see the Brewers play, right? I just want to see the Brewers play. I don't care where that game is played. It can be played anywhere. But I just want to see a Brewers game. Now, as it is, the Brewers, I thought, as an organization, did an A++ job once again. A++ job. The way those guys, and I expect nothing less of those guys. That's just the way they are. Those guys handle themselves so well, and from everywhere in that organization. And Miz was the rock star, obviously. Miz was the rock star. So when you're going out to these things, you're just not playing the game. You got to do other things. The Miz, they're signing autographs, meeting with the kids, and all that. And the players were so great with the kids. Now, I'll say this: as a kid who grew up in the 70s and 80s. Baseball was not like that. It was not as kid-friendly as it is now. Now, Major League Baseball always says, well, they want to give back and they want to do this. They want to grow the game. In the 70s, you try asking Reggie Jackson for an autograph, or they'll walk right by you. George Scott, who played at the Brewers, he'd shout at him, he'd be 10 yards away, walking in the dugout. 2 hours before the game, I'd be one of those kids next to the Brewers dugout where you can go back then and get autographs. He didn't care. Cecil Cooper, he would never sign any. He didn't care. He wouldn't sign any autographs. Cooper and George Scott, ironically, 2 first basemen. The 2 Brewers first basemen growing up as a kid that I saw. But yeah, but today, they sign autographs, they're accessible, and it's a lot better. They have autograph days for the kids, and I think that it's much different than it was back in the 70s when these guys were untouchable. Sure, there was guys like Molitor and Yount and Augustine and all the several guys who did sign autographs, but a few of those guys, they didn't want anything to do with it. So that's my 2 cents on it. Coming out of the game, Garrett Mitchell, he left the game, hit on a wrist with a pitch, and you always hate to see when a hitter gets hit on the wrist because there's so many small bones in your wrist. That's always an area you don't mess around. You don't never want to get hit with a pitch, but especially in the wrist. But apparently they had X-rays right on the site there at Williamsport, and sounds like everything turned out okay. The Brewers are saying a forearm contusion, no broken bones in there. And I thought Garrett Mitchell getting on there, doing the interview. I do not like the in-game interviews because I'm always fearful, at least with one of our guys. And our guy, this is the first time the Brewers were ever on something like this. As we know, they're never on ESPN Sunday Night Baseball, or it's on NBC or whenever. They're not just on Sunday Night Baseball. But Mitchell's being interviewed. I'm like, man, I hope nothing comes out there by him. But he said just after the game too, just saying the things he did to Carl Ravitch of ESPN, who was, I believe, broadcasting his last game, saying how much, he appreciated him and all that. Thought that was a real classy thing on Garrett Mitchell's part. Thought that was really, really cool. And I'm glad things turned out, and he's going to be okay. Little League World Series. When I was a kid growing up, I always thought, man, my team could play in the Little League World Series. I grew up in Greendale. I played for the Greendale Twilight Baseball, as it's called. I don't know if it's still called that in Greendale. We played at Community Center, played at the old College Park, played at Highland Park School in Greendale. So those are the places we played. When I was younger, we played at JC Park. Took a trip through Greendale the other day, went right by JC Park. And then when I'm watching these kids at this Little League Classic tonight, I was thinking back to we all have Little League moments, man. Playing the All-Star game on the 4th of July at Brinkman Field at Greendale High School. But yeah, I played in. Now today there's travel leagues. There was none of these travel leagues back when I was playing. None of these at all in the early 80s, late 70s, early 80s. None of it. You just played your Little League games, and it was always done too soon, like middle of July, because they wanted to give everybody off for vacation. I feel like it goes a little further these days in some parts. But yeah, you just played against kids that you grew up with in Greendale. And I think that was like that everywhere. There was the Wilson Park, and I mean, those are the two I knew of growing up. I had friends of mine that I grew up with I went to grade school with who played at Wilson Park, but you never did have the traveling league. Now, the travel leagues, yeah, I don't want to get into that because I think it's too much, but we'll save that for somewhere else. But yeah, just watching those kids tonight just reminded me of, man, my days of playing Little League Baseball in just how it was a well-run league. Went too quickly, though. Went too quickly because it always ended in mid-July once it started really getting really nice and warm outside. All right, we come back. We're going to talk about Woodruff. We'll talk about Woodruff and a few other things that happened in this game as well. We'll get to all that coming up next. And Sal Frelick, who's supposedly going to come back maybe for the Mets series. We'll get to that next here on Locked On Brewers. Hey, everybody. Running a business should not feel like you're trying to connect a bunch of systems that were never meant to work together in the first place. One app for accounting, another for inventory, another for sales. Somehow, none of them ever talk to each other. That's where Odoo comes in. Odoo is an all-in-one business management platform that brings every part of your business together in one powerful platform. From sales to accounting to inventory, marketing, everything works in one place. Odoo is one platform to manage and grow and scale your business. The best organizations know that success, it's just not about talent. It's about having everyone working for the same goal. And that's true in sports, just like it is in business. You business owners, you managers out there, you know that more than anybody. Great organizations win because operations matter. Great organizations win because operations matter. Sports and in the business world. That's why you should get Odoo. Try it for free today. Odoo, ODOO.com/lockedon. Odoo, ODOO.com/lockedon. Try it for free today. Odoo. Before I go any further, of course, our podcast, you get it on Google, Spotify, Apple. We're on all the major downloads out there, wherever you download your audio podcast. And of course, our YouTube page, we're hitting 10,000 subscribers. I'm very proud of that. And that's because of all you guys out there. Search us on Locked On Brewers. If you're already listening to the audio platform, hit us up on YouTube. Become a subscriber. You get the instant rapid reactions right after the game. After the game, I do a little rapid reaction on the game. And then you'll see the video. You come into our Locked On Brewers studio with all the memorabilia up there and all that. Somebody said, Chuck, when are you going to make a tour around your studio here with all your memorabilia? I think I'll save that for the off season, because right now with our season, we don't have time for that because we're too busy talking about this current team. Now, if the Brewers were the other way, if they were 50-81, then maybe we would do something like that. But at 81-50, it's all Brewers all the time about this current team. Brandon Woodruff. God, that was surprising news on Saturday. Kurt Hogue first broke it. That Brandon Woodruff does not need surgery. Apparently, he went back to see his surgeon in Dallas, and they told him, "Hey, right now you don't need surgery." So he's going to try a 5-week throwing program. He's going to start playing catch, and a 5-week program that would have him on target to be ready for the postseason. Now, of course, it's easy to jump to conclusions and say, hey, we're going to have Woodruff back for the postseason. But he's got a lot of hurdles to climb. I don't want to throw water on it, but we got to be realistic. And even Murphy was saying that it's a low probability. But for Woodruff, the fact that he's got to avoid the surgery, at least for now, that's great. That's great because you just, as an athlete or as a person in general, but especially as an athlete, anytime somebody cuts into you, that's just never a good thing, especially having to do it multiple times for a guy who's trying to, keep his major league career going at 33. He's not done yet. He still wants to pitch. So he's going to try this 5-week program. Hopefully everything falls in line on that, and we'll see. So, I mean, I could sit here and say, well, let's wait to the 5 weeks, which we probably should. But, I mean, if everything checks out, would I pitch him in the game? Sure. If he passes all the tests with his arm and all that, would I trust him in a postseason? Sure, I would. Because he's one of these guys, it seems like, and he's put a lot of work in, as we know, that, man, coming off these injuries, he gets back throwing on the hill. And sure, he's not throwing 98 or 97. And Murphy's even said, well, Woodruff has really learned how to pitch. He's really understood and how to pitch. And he doesn't have to have that high heater anymore. So, yeah, I'd trust Woodruff in a postseason game if he's healthy. If he's healthy, of course it would. But let's take a wait and see on that. But I thought that was great news. Interesting, though, if he would come back, who would be in the postseason? And this is a question for later on. If Woodruff would be healthy for the postseason, having not pitched in a long, long time, who would be the odd man out there? Right? There's only so many you could have in that postseason roster. You could change it for every series, but that would be very, very interesting. As far as the tiebreaker right now between Milwaukee and Atlanta, obviously this was a big series for Milwaukee, just in case, because Milwaukee, Los Angeles, and well, I guess you could say Chicago too. Chicago, Milwaukee, Los Angeles, and Atlanta are all fighting for the top 2 seeds. Milwaukee's in the driver's seat right now. But Atlanta, they're trying to knock the door down too. And if the Brewers and Atlanta would tie, well, it comes down to season series. And with Milwaukee taking 2 of 3 this past weekend, the Brewers and the Braves are now tied at 3-3. And divisional record would be the tiebreaker. And right now, the Braves by 3.5 games have a better divisional record than the Milwaukee Brewers. Let's hope it doesn't come down to that if that has to happen. But nonetheless, that's what it would come down to. So they've tied the season series. It would come down to a divisional tiebreaker. And right now, according to my math, the Braves have a 3.5 game lead in that market. But let's go ahead and just get that number 1 seed or that number 2 seed and hopefully not worry about the Atlanta Braves, who got their own issues, man. They got swept in Minnesota last weekend, lost 1 game, or last week. They lost in Chicago, beat the White Sox, and then did a series against Milwaukee and dropped 2 or 3. Sal Frelick, according to Murph, sounds like there's a chance that we've been talking about this for last week or so, that Frelick could be activated for the Mets series. We'll see about that. But that seems to be the path they're on there right now for Sal, that Tuesday against the Mets. We'll see. The probable pitchers for the Mets series: Kyle Harrison, Dustin May, and Mizorowski are the 3 pitchers. Milwaukee did have it at TBA on Thursday, but since they've updated it is now Mizorowski pitching on Thursday. So, okay, we'll take that. Harrison, May, and Mizorowski pitching. Interesting. So that's the way we'll line up there. Harrison, May, and Mizorowski. We'll be going back to that 5-man rotation. Brewers, by the way, Saturday, they gave the number 44 jerseys out, the Henry Aaron. To me, those are the best Brewer jerseys ever. The powder blue road Brewers jerseys. And they gave those away on Saturday, the number 44 on the back. I think those Brewer jerseys, Although I like the road, and I just bought myself one, road Milwaukee jersey, where it says Milwaukee across, this current edition. I like that. But those Brewers jerseys from the mid-'70s, the light powder blue, the Aaron 44 jersey, I think 44 just looks like a cool, the guy who wears 44 should be like the stud of your team. Now, for the Brewers, they can't reissue it because it's their jersey number. But 44, ever since seeing Aaron as a kid, I was like, man, 44. The great players all wear 44. Reggie Jackson, Henry Aaron. I just thought that 44 is a power number. Henry Aaron's 44. I just think that was just so fantastic. All right, some final thoughts coming up here as the Brewers wrapped it up, and they go into an off day on Monday, and then they come back and they play the 3 games against the Mets, and then they have the weekend series with Texas. They play this quick 3-game set in New York, and the funny thing about it is the Brewers, after the game on Saturday, they flew out to New York. They didn't stay in Williamsport. They flew into New York. This is smart. They flew into New York on Saturday, flew back into Williamsport today on Sunday. And usually you never fly into a town on the day of your game. But in this case, they did. They flew in. And I believe the Braves flew in from Milwaukee to Williamsport on Sunday as well on game day. So, like I said, usually you get in there the night before. And then the Brewers, after the game on Sunday night, flew back to New York, and they have a 3-game series. Because, traveling with all those guys, you don't want to go to a hotel in Williamsport for a day and then have to pack everything up and then head back to head to New York. So I think that was a genius move right there. All right, well, give some final thoughts after this. Chuck Freimund here on Locked On Brewers. Big thank you to our friends at Amazon for this limited break. The back-to-school season. Spend less on your kids with Amazon. We all know how crazy the back-to-school shopping experience can be. It starts with a few items on the list. Suddenly, you're shopping for supplies, clothes, lunch gear, tech, and about 10 other things you didn't see coming. It all adds up real fast. You buy clothes for your kid, and then your kid's got a growth spurt 2 weeks later. You're right back where you started. Sometimes it feels like they're growing faster than your budget can keep up with. And when you're shopping for a few back-to-school essentials, and realize how quickly that list grows. Supplies, clothes, lunch gear, headphones, keeps going on and on and on. That's why finding low prices on the things you need makes such a big difference this time of the year, and you get it all done with Amazon. What I love about it, man, home delivery as well. Hey, your kid doesn't want to go out shopping, go to the stores. No, he doesn't want to do that. You don't want to do that either. Enjoy the weather outside. Shop Amazon. So remember, with Amazon's low back-to-school prices, spend less on your kids, because every dollar you don't spend on them is a dollar you haven't spent on them. Shop back to school at Amazon. Back to school shopping with Amazon, and spend less on your kids. Always drop me a line at Chuck Freimund on Twitter. Follow me, please. Chuck Freimund, Freimund. Facebook friends, we can become Facebook friends. As always, I want to hear where you guys are consuming the show. That's just really intriguing for me. By the way, the series of the Mets are just terrible. One of the more disappointing, underachieving teams in baseball. I feel like we always say that about the New York Mets, just underachievers. We'll see if David Stearns keeps his job. But yeah, they spend all the money and then have zero results. You see Gary Sheffield throw out the first pitch? Man, you talk about turning back the clock. Met Murphy, and I thought he said that Murphy was his kind of manager. And who wouldn't say that about my guy Murphy? But Gary Sheffield, yeah. Gary Sheffield's time in Milwaukee. God. Yeah, that was not a good experience for anybody. Of course, Sheffield went to a few spots and it didn't work out for him. That guy could have been the greatest Brewer of all time. There could have been a statue of Gary Sheffield in front of AmFam Field. That's how good that guy is. That guy was a talent. I remember the first time I saw Gary hit, he came up in 1988, and Sheffield, man, what a quick bat through the zone. Reminds me of Churio. Man, Sheffield was 19 years old, And then when you saw him, he just had stardom. Didn't work out for him here. They eventually traded him. I'm surprised he was here that long, but they eventually traded him in 92 to San Diego. And he flourished. He had a great career. Brandon Sproat and Tate Kuno combined on a 7-inning no-hitter for Nashville. I'm just glad Sproat pitched well. I don't care about the no-hitter. I'm glad to just see Sproat threw up a couple of zeros there. Did you see the 5-3 double play by Hamilton? Didn't register until afterwards. A buddy of mine just goes, "What do you think? That might be the best defensive play I've ever seen," he told me. I said, "Wow, I guess, Hamilton taking that 5-3 himself. Pretty good." A great defensive play on a night where the Brewers did not play good defense. One other thing, the dumping of the water bottle. Now, I usually miss the Gatorade dump, when Tim Dillard was doing the interview, from what I understand, on Saturday. I usually miss that post-game interview. I don't see it because we're down by the locker room and going down by the locker rooms and going down there. So I don't see it, but I know it's been Gatorade over the years. When did they start doing the bottles? They're dumping bottles of water on the guy. They did it on Bowers the other day. Did they stop doing the Gatorade dump? They're dumping bottles of water on a player? That was Bowers. I don't remember hearing about anything about that, but they did it to Bowers on Saturday, and I don't know if they've ever done that in other times. Obviously, they only do that in home games. Like I said, usually home game, I'm covering the game, and I don't get a chance to see that. But, yeah, somebody knows, let me know, because that's the first one. I was going through Twitter today, and I noticed. In fact, Shannon said something the other day. She goes, "Why did they dump bottles of water on Bowers?" And I said, "Well, it'd be news to me. I don't know." Want to thank Big 12 Sports. Dario Melendez had me on his show on Saturday representing Locked On Brewers, talking Brewers baseball Saturday night. That was fun being on there with him. And by the way, listen to Sports Radio Statewide, ESPN Lacrosse with John Papadopoulos. I'm on there on Mondays at 4:30, so I'll be on later on today. Mondays at 4:30 with him, talking Brewers baseball. And Tuesdays at 11:35, I'm on the Bill Michaels Show, representing Locked On Brewers, talking Brewers baseball with my guy Bill Michaels on Tuesdays and John Papadopoulos on Mondays. But, yeah, as always, hit me up on social media. Great weekend. Odd starting times, but we got through it. And heading into the series against the Mets. We'll talk more about that coming up on Monday night, Tuesday mornings, early edition of Locked On Brewers. Brewers, 8 runs in 3 games, but as they always do, they find a way to still take 2 or 3. Man, is that incredible? I guess that counts as a home series, right? Because the Brewers have not lost a home series since losing to the Cubs mid to late June, right? They lost that series against the Cubs, and that's the last time the Brewers have lost a home series. Team with the best record, home record in baseball, and the best record overall in baseball. Have yourself a great Monday, everybody. Thanks for tuning in, as always. My name is Chuck Freimund, Locked On Brewers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. We are your team every day.